Hi, I'm Balan Madhavan. Do you know how much time it took for the first photograph to be captured in the 19th century? I read somewhere that it took 8 hours. That old crude camera with a glass plate painted applied with silver halide was exposed to the light for 8 hours to make a photograph. That is where we come from. Right now, because of the amazing breakthrough in technology, most of our modern DSLR cameras have a shutter speed of up to 1 by 8,000 of a second. So imagine how much we have grown in the last 150 years. It's phenomenal. If you have ever checked the different shutter speeds in your camera, you would see that it starts with B, which stands for bulb mode. Then you have 30 seconds, 15 seconds, 10 seconds, likewise it goes. And finally, on the other side, it comes to 1 by 1000 of a second, then 1 by 2000 of a second, 1 by 4000 of a second. And in many cameras, now we have 1 by 8000 of a second. So that much of technological breakthrough has happened. But why do we need all these shutter speeds? The answer is simple. Every photograph demands a special setting, a special combination, a unique combination of aperture and shutter speed to deliver the photograph the way the photographer has seen it. So in order to achieve that, sometimes you have to expose your camera for a longer time. Sometimes you have to cut short the exposure time to a tiny microsecond. So most of the time when we talk about high shutter speeds, it straight away connects to action photography. If you are a sports photographer, if you shoot birds in flight, likewise if you do action photography, any kind of action photography, you need high shutter speeds. So when we talk about high shutter speeds, anything beyond 1 by 500 of a second can be considered as high shutter speeds. 1 by 500, 1 by 1000, likewise. Why do you always apply this high shutter speed? Because you want to freeze the action. Like a football player jumping in the air, scoring a goal. Some kind of movement which is really fast need to be arrested to be captured properly in your camera. So when you talk about high shutter speed like 1 by 1000, imagine just 1 by 1000 of a second is the duration in which the shutter of your camera opens and closes. So this kind of photography is usually called action photography. For that you definitely need high shutter speeds. But does the high shutter speed photograph always convey a moment of action? It need not. Because by freezing an action, you are actually not creating a sense of movement in the photograph. Just because somebody is in midair doesn't always depict a sense of motion. Okay, you have frozen somebody there. Okay, he is going to come down. So, in the mind of the viewer, you have created some kind of an action. But in order to create a sense of movement, there is another technique possible, which actually doesn't require a very high shutter speed. We all know that if you have to achieve a high shutter speed, there should be enough light available. Only in very bright light conditions you can increase the shutter speed to the desired level. Or you may have to push your ISO to a much higher level than what is required. But there is another technique. This technique is called panning. What is panning? Panning is nothing but following your subject through the viewfinder and making pictures while the movement is happening. I'll give you a simple example. Just suppose an athlete is running in front of you. is running at maybe 15 kilometers per hour or 20 kilometers per hour, whatever it is. And you want to make pictures in the regular way, you just increase the shutter speed 1/500 and click. But instead of that, you just follow him through the viewfinder. And without stopping the camera, you keep on clicking. So what will happen? When you are following your subject through the viewfinder, there is practically no relative movement between the subject and the camera because we are both doing the same speed. It's happening in the same speed. This is my camera, this is the subject. But what is happening to the background? When you are moving like this, in fact, the background is moving in the opposite direction. So in order to achieve this, just imagine a person is running, which requires a shutter speed of 1/500 to freeze. But instead, you are using a shutter speed of 1/50, but you are using the panning technique to follow the subject like this and clicking. You don't stop and do that. You continuously move, click, 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 like that you do. So what happens? At 1/15, because of the lack of relative movement, your subject remains within the frame, you are capturing it. But what is happening to the background? The background is moving in the opposite direction, and the slow shutter speed of 1/15 is enough to create a blur in the background. So this technique can be applied in any area. There are so many places where you can use it. I have used this successfully even in my medical photography. Because in the emergency room of a hospital, when a patient is brought in from the ambulance, you have to show a sense of speed and urgency. If I used a high shutter speed, it will only freeze the subject, a situation there. But when I use a high, panning movement, along with the required shutter speed, it can be anywhere between 1/4 of a second, 1/8 second, 1/15 seconds. It depends on the relative speed. How fast the subject is moving, based on that you set your shutter speed. But it creates a beautiful sense of movement. I have applied this in wildlife photography. I have applied this many times in sports photography, and I have applied this even in commercial photography, with always getting good results. So practice this. The only advice is the shutter speed you choose for panning is directly proportional to the speed of the subject moving. If you want to shoot somebody running, a 1/15 or 1/8 is more than enough for creating this motion blur. Whereas if you want to shoot a racing bike, if you try to use a shutter speed of 1/15 and try to follow it, I'm very sure you will end up with a totally blurred picture because the movement is so fast. For such situations, you have to increase the shutter speed to a slightly higher level. But panning will always give you joy, and also it will give you exciting photographs to the viewer. So keep practicing. Thank you.